Welcome everybody to a brand new series. My name is Maxwell and this is Civilization 5 as soon as possible, or you may have guessed that from the title, ASAP. This obviously isn't the base game, as you may see immediately by what's going on the screen. This is the R.E.D or the R.E.D World War II mod. It is a mod which completely changes the way that the game works. And what I'm doing here is a scenario called the Battle of Stalingrad, where you basically have to hold on to Stalingrad for as long as possible, and the person who holds Stalingrad, I think at the end or for the most amount of turns, wins the scenario. So, what is this series all about? I'm a massive 4X strategy nerd. I love these kind of games. I love these sort of long, drawn-out strategy games and these sort of, well, Civilization and its various mods. I'm a massive fan of them. The problem I've got is, with my schedule the way that it is, I can't really play a game unless I'm kind of planning to make a video about it. If I'm not going to make a video about it, then I won't really have time to make videos about anything else. Like if I spend sort of like 3 hours or 4 hours in a day playing a game, that's 3 or 4 hours away from recording something for the channel. And with my schedule the way it is, I can't really afford that time. So I've been playing Civilization on and off since it came out. I've got about 150 hours on record, I think. By far not the most, but no slacker either. So I've always been a fan of these kind of games for videos as well. The problem is, I always try and put myself in a viewer's point of view, in a viewer's shoes, when I come to make a video. And I always found that there are two main problems with turning a 4X strategy, and especially Civ 5, into a video. The first one being, I don't know, I mean, this video took about 3 hours of playtime. And I don't know if, one, I could stay energetic and enthusiastic enough for 3 hours of commentary, especially by myself. Any of you who are from my old channel and saw the Age of Wonders playthroughs that I did with Gabe, then you'll have seen, by coming to the end of our play sessions, you'll have noticed a dramatic drop-off in the amount that we were talking to each other, and generally the amount of banter. So, I've always found that maintaining through a long, drawn-out video can be quite difficult. Not just for me, but for many people. So, and the second is, I think the action is a little bit too slow. See, this 3 hour video here, I could have chopped this up into 15 to 20 minute bite-sized pieces. Would have been nice for you. But you would have had to watch it probably over the course of, what? Let's say 20 minutes an episode, 3 hours, that's what? That's 9 episodes. Probably could have stretched that to 10. That probably would have taken you, what, 2-3 weeks? You kind of lose the thread of the game as you go between the days of watching it. And I know some people just wait till they've got a few episodes built up and then watch them all, but that's not really ideal. And like I said, the action doesn't really, for what happens on screen, I don't think it really warrants being drawn out for 10 episodes. Over the course of a few weeks. So, finally, 4 minutes into the video, we come to my grand plan. So, the name of the series is going to be ASAP, or as soon as possible. And the plan is to take the three hours worth of footage and condense it down to something a little bit more palatable. So, this is about 2 hours and 45 minutes, playing at 500% speed. So, it gets it down to about 33 minutes. And then commentate over the top of that. And that is the plan for the series. So you basically, something like this, the Battle of Stalingrad, this is probably going to take me about 6 hours to play out, these 40 turns. But I think I can probably condense that down to about 1 hour's worth of footage. 1 hour's worth of footage over 2 episodes is, you can sort of hold it in your mind a lot easier. And you get sort of a bigger payoff, because you see the start and you see it play all the way through to the end. in basically one sitting. So that is what I'm going to be doing with this series. As far as I'm aware, nobody really does this. I've seen some people do a couple of speed plays, but they don't do this as a series idea. And the plan is, this isn't just going to work for Civilization 5. This could work for any kind of grand strategy or 4X game where stuff that happens on the screen can be significantly sped up and you can still maintain the thread of what's going on. I mean, as you see, even at this speed here that the game's being played at, you can see and you can follow exactly what's going on. You see me and the Nazis at the moment are fighting over Potomac. And that is a big, protracted, drawn-out battle, but you can kind of follow it. You can see what's going on. You can see up in the north, I'm being completely overrun by the Nazis. I'm going to come in and talk about the game a lot more, because, I mean, we've got 30 minutes to kill. So I'm going to come and talk about the game a lot more, but at the moment, I just want to give you an idea of what the series is and where it's going to go from here. So, if this is something that you like, obviously, I'm not going to be limited to just playing Civilization 5. This could be done to play any kind of large-scale grand strategy game or any kind of mod or any 4X kind of game. The only problem is I have to do post-commentary, because if I do commentary live, I will either have to talk in incredible slow motion or you're just not going to be able to understand anything that I say at all. So, it's all going to have to be this post-commentary stuff, which means, unfortunately, it's not really going to be able to be multiplayer. The reason for that is because if I was talking to somebody over multiplayer, they'd either have to be silent for the whole game, or we would have to take the game sound out completely, because obviously their voice would be mixed in with the game sound, and then they would sound ridiculous. And at a stupidly high speed and pitch. So, only single player to start with. Well, not to start with, probably forever. But so if you guys like this idea, or if you've watched through the whole video and you like the video, let me know with a comment and leave a like on the video. And that's the best way to let me know whether you like this idea. And like I said, not restricted just to save and not restricted to mods or anything. I can play anything whatsoever. Well, my plan would be to go through and play the Battle of Stalingrad, see how that turns out, and then one of the other scenarios for the R.E.D. World War II mod, the Red World War II mod, is you can play the full World War II Battle for Europe. So I was thinking about maybe doing that. I mean, you can play on an even bigger map where you play over the whole world, but that tends to crash quite frequently. So, probably not going to try that. I might give it a try, and if it crashes, then just sack the idea. But if it remains stable, then we'll give it a good go. But I know that the Battle for Europe is stable, and we can play that one out. So that's my idea for the next series. Because obviously this is only going to last 2 episodes. This episode and then the next episode. And this is going to be over. So I think by the time we get to the end of this video, we're at sort of turn 15. Out of 40, so only 15 turns left. But obviously the action takes a lot longer per turn then, because there's a hell of a lot more going on. Right, well, that's 8 minutes of waffling about ideas and such. So let's talk about the game itself as it's going on right now. So the objective is to hold Stalingrad for as many turns as possible, and I think you need to hold it at the end. You can see at the top there, in the top bar, you can see the victory point score. My score there is +8. That's because I've currently held Stalingrad for 8 turns. My plan originally, because the Germans had a much bigger starting army than we do, was just to consolidate my entire force around Potomac and block off the road for the advance from the south, because the Nazis had a large army in the south. And then a large army on the western front there, on the western side of the map. So my plan was to condense my army in the centre and hold Potomac. Well, I mean, I didn't need to hold Potomac at all costs, but the idea was to hold them around Potomac at all costs. And basically have that our line of defence. The idea is basically just to jam as many bodies into that area as possible, so the Germans literally can't get through. And if they literally can't get through, then they can't get to Stalingrad. Because the thing about this game is all units have 100 hit points, so units take forever to die. Even with concerted effort and bombing and shelling and attacking from multiple sides, a unit will generally last 2 or 3 turns under sustained attack before falling. Now, you may have noticed that I'm not showing the German turns. The reason for this is because, well, obviously, for the narrative of the game, they're a lot less important. And secondly, they've got a crap ton of planes, and planes take forever to animate, flying over there, dropping the bombs, flying back, and everything. As you see there, that was a 500% speed, and that was still painfully slow. So what I generally, not what I generally did. What I did do was I turned on quick combat for the German turn. Hit next turn, and then turn quick combat off. And all I'm looking for when the turn processes is on that right-hand side. I just want to see if any of my units are killed. If any of my units were killed, I find out where they were, so that I can try and plug that gap that they have left in my lines, and then just kind of try and reconstruct the German turn from who's lost health and where their units are positioned. So it's good. The battle's going okay at the moment, where I'm kind of starting to lose in the centre here. As you can see, I'm getting encroached on from the north, and my units are starting to look a little bit thin now as the Germans keep piling forces into the centre. And I'm starting to think this one is going to be a bit risky, as they've pushed some units past Potomac. But I noticed that I've received 7 new units in the south there. So I'm going to go back and retake this town and just annihilate the Germans from there. And you might have seen that the turn automatically ticked across, and I get a huge amount of reinforcements from the north. And these guys are going to be invaluable, because what I can do is start retaking the towns that are lost from the north. And try and overrun these guys. But what I want to do is take the infantry from the guys that spawn on the right-hand side and try and move those across to Potomac, to bolster the beleaguered forces there, as they are getting a little bit overrun. I've got quite a lot of tanks spawned on this far left-hand side, so the tanks are going to just try and assist in the retaking of some of those towns that I lost early on. Hopefully I won't come up against too much opposition there. I'm hoping that the Germans have moved their forces off to go and contest that fight in the centre. And while they are off doing that, I can just run through and retake the towns that I've lost. Get gifted a few more planes as well. And as you can see, even at 500%, these planes take forever to do anything. Which is why I put the Germans on quick turns. Obviously, it's not just unfair. I haven't just been gifted all of these units. The Germans are constantly getting reinforcements as well. So it is going to sort of even itself out. But basically, I want to use sort of German tactics here and just try and overrun them as quickly as possible with tanks, with the sort of the blitz maneuver. And that's a KV-2 in the background there. Beautiful, beautiful machine. These guys are going to try and overrun. You see, that's 2 turns now at sustained bombardment on that infantry unit, that German infantry unit, and they are still alive. So you can see things have a lot of health and tend to die very, very slowly in this game, which really allows you to plan your strategy a lot better if you know. So that was always my problem with the original Civilization without mods, was that units tended to die way too easily because they only have 10 hit points. So something that did sort of 3.5 would sort of be a lot more damaging than something that did 35, if you know what I mean. So it would round that up to 4 damage. It just felt... It felt like... Well, it didn't feel like stuff died way, way, way too quickly. But obviously with the grand time scale that Civ has, you would see 2 units going together as sort of a big protracted land war that would take its toll over many days worth of battle, whereas this is a lot shorter scale. You can see we're at November 24th, 1942. And what was that? That was 4 days. So we went 4 days in a single turn there, as opposed to, like, what, 100 years when you're early on in Civilization? So, yeah. But you can see, the Germans have obviously gotten reinforcements because they've piled a hell of a lot of infantry into the centre here. But they've still got these stubborn Panzer IVs of those. I think they may be Panzer IVs still stuck in my territory. Luckily, though, I've got them cut off. One of the main things about the Red World War II mod is your units need what's called supply lines. If they get caught in a square and can't trace a direct line through their own territory back to a city, they are what is effectively known as cut off. When they are cut off, they don't receive reinforcements and they lose hit points every turn. You may have noticed all the big green numbers flashing up when I finish turns. What that is in the top left-hand corner you have a reinforcement supply number, and that gets used to dish out reinforcements to your units. As you see, I've got a minus 332, which means I'm losing 332 reinforcements per turn. Your towns can be used to... recruit extra people. At the moment I'm using them to produce extra material because tanks seem like the most important things. As you see, I only have one material spare, which means that none of my tanks are receiving reinforcements at the moment. So I've got to try and conserve as many hit points on tanks as possible. Men, a little bit different. I've got plenty of reinforcements saved up, but I am losing quite a few per turn. So a good tactic is to try and cut off your enemy, and that kind of severely weakens them. They get combat modifiers as well. They attack with less ability when they are cut off from their own lines as well. So as you can see, a good tactic is always try and cut them off. I think this Potomac town has probably changed hands almost every single turn in this battle. But you can see up in the north there, there's some infantry making a run straight for one of my towns. And there's nothing really I'm going to be able to do apart from maybe try and physically blockade them off. Because like I said, units don't die tremendously quickly. So even if I made a concentrated effort to try and take that unit out, they are not going to die particularly quickly. So the only real option I've got is to try and physically block their path. So there's a little bit of an extra front opening up in the south, just because I did bring some guys into the middle to block off the advance from the south, but they seem to have won their little fight pretty easily, and they managed to push the Germans all the way back to that border town there. So there's a big fight happening around there. That's sort of our second front is opening up. I'm just trying to take out the mechanized infantry first, because they're pretty tough. Up in the north, the fight's going pretty good. I've got KV-1s, I've got T-34-76s, BT-7s and T-26s. I think down here I've got some T-34s. And again, some KV-1s. I should probably learn to breathe between sentences. Running out of breath there as I was trying to describe what tanks I had. Just having a quick look at the diplomacy there to just see what the scores were. It's a good way of keeping track of how well your opponent's doing. Obviously, at the very beginning, the German score massively outstripped my own. But as the game's going on, I'm kind of whittling them down and building my own score up, which is nice, by taking towns and building up bigger military. One mistake I did make at the start of the game is you've got 3 towns which can produce units. And I had those towns building units. And that's because at the beginning I didn't realise we were going to be getting free reinforcements. If I could do it again, I'll probably just have those guys producing money or recruiting or materials. Because with the free units that you get, that's more than enough to fight the battle. Just trying to take these towns as quickly as possible. Like I said, using the Germans' tactics against them. Once I've got a town, just moving on to the next one. Opened up a whole bunch of new fronts here. KV-2s are horrendously slow. I had some KV-2s in the north there, but they're just so ungodly slow. So the fight in the middle of the map. I finally decided to do something about these infantry that's marching on Gumrak. I do station a unit there to try and help, and did do some bombardment from my air forces to try and whittle those guys down. I think they do take the town just because there's no way I can battle them. And if they win the fight for Gumrak, even though I've got a unit in there, they will push them out and take the town. I mean, there's nothing really the Germans can do in the north here. They got taken totally by surprise. I mean, my forces literally came out of nowhere. And they're just absolutely hammering them. Trying to cut these guys' path of retreat off. And finally take this town here. Oh no, I guess I'll take it next turn. Just trying to eliminate their artillery first. So artillery can be very effective in this. Obviously with regular civ they can only attack 2, and when you're very late on in the game with the rocket artillery they can attack 3 squares. Obviously with this being a lot smaller scale they can attack much further. I think it's about 5 or 6 squares that they can attack. So hopefully the Germans don't have some kind of massive army in reserve. There are a couple of secondary objectives which would complete a pincer maneuver, which I don't quite understand. And the other one was to get the German 6th Army under 15% strength. I'm not sure what I get it down to by the end of the battle. I think it's either 60 or 80. One of those numbers sounds right, but looking at those numbers, that means that I've done a hell of a lot less damage to the Germans than I thought I had. I thought I was absolutely running roughshod all over them, and it turns out they've still got either 60 or 80% of their force fully intact. And there we go. They do finally take Gumrak. I'm not too bothered about getting that back, because they've only got 1 artillery unit and 1 tank unit moving in on it. And Stalingrad has a defense of 54, so it's at least as powerful as a tank unit. And I know I've got the forces coming in from the left-hand side there. Once they take that town, they're obviously going to sweep in and try and help in the centre. The rest of the guys are all just holding them up there. Just a case of trying to exterminate what units are left. And there we go. Finally take the town in the north with the last 2 infantry units. And then I could focus on this big fight in the plains here. This is going to turn into a bit of a clusterfuck. I think that might be one of their reinforcement towns. And as you can see, the Germans are moving a hell of a lot of forces on the centre. Now, I don't really have the forces to deal with that either, so I think what I do is kind of just try and push out as much territory as possible and try and do the physical blockade tactic that I was doing earlier, which is just try and physically block their path. With these 2 infantry units, I decided just to send those all the way down the left-hand flank to try and take that little town off by itself. I figure there's probably nobody in there defending it, so they can probably just sneak it from the side. Not sure how successful that'll be, because I don't really remember how that went. Battle for the south going good, but again, the Germans just keep seeming to send inexhaustible amounts of reinforcements in. The other problem is they keep sending Panzer IVs in as well. And Panzer IVs are pretty damn dangerous. You guys who play World of Tanks, you might not think Panzer IVs are dangerous, but they are tier 5, and up against KV-1s that are also tier 5, so they're actually more than a match for the most powerful tank that I've got on the battlefield at the moment. So just trying to clean up these stragglers that are kind of trapped behind my lines. You see, we just kind of clean them up, and then we've got the tanks in the north that we need to deal with. Now, I've retaken Gumrak. I'm going to try not to let that fall again. Potomac's been in the enemy hands for quite a while now. As you can see here in the centre, I'm just trying to make a physical blockade. The plan is to try and win the battle in the south as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the plan there doesn't go too great, as the Germans keep piling more and more and more reinforcements into that town that just seem to come out of nowhere. Luckily in the north, things are going a hell of a lot better, and we're just absolutely overrunning them. Taking them completely by surprise. And in the south also. We left a KV-1 and was that some BT-7s or T-26s to take that town? Just KV-1s are so powerful on their own that they could probably have taken the town by themselves, but I just wanted to give them a little bit of an extra chance. So just left an extra unit with them. As you can see, although they've got a lot of forces in the centre there, I am kind of holding them off. Doing a good job with my infantry. Infantry's invaluable in this mod. They may not seem like the most powerful of units, but with 100 hit points, they could just be used as sort of a physical barrier. If you can make a line of people, a physical line of infantry, it's going to take at least 2 to 3 turns to break a hole in that line. I think that was probably the actual Russian tactics in Stalingrad. All of the other craziness aside, was to just make physical blockades of people so that the Germans couldn't actually get through. So just using the forces in the north to try and bust through the lines here. But, as you can see, suddenly a load of tanks appear in the north there. There are Panzer IVs and some other tanks there. So that fight is about to get a lot more bloody than I had initially anticipated, initially sort of planned for. Same as this fight in the south, some Panzer IVs turn up and they just totally even the score, especially because my KV-1s are still attempting to take that town in the south, and because my most powerful tank is away. Yeah, the Panzer IVs kind of just have the run of it. Problem is, a lot of my infantry can't just outright attack the Panzer IVs because they'd lose way too much health. So they kind of just have to sit there and wait to be attacked themselves. But, there we go. Good old Russian manufacturing comes out with a whole bunch more reinforcements. This fight here, which was looking nice and even, but looks like it was going to be a difficult one to win, is suddenly just trivialized. As soon as my tanks from the north are going to be able to arrive at the battlefront, unless the Germans get a huge surge of reinforcements, that is going to be all she wrote. But on the plus side, with all the forces coming from the north and taking the tension away from the centre, the Germans have kind of taken their eye off the ball. Excuse me. Kind of taken their eye off the ball and diverted a lot of forces from the centre, and they've just kind of disappeared behind their own lines. The problem I have is as my infantry push further on in the centre there, the enemy's artillery opens up and starts bombarding them. They must have been out of range before, up when my units were around Potomac. But now that they're not, the artillery really opens up on them and starts hammering them. So I've really got to be careful of how many hit points they've got and trying to maintain the hit points. And again, KV-1's just going off chasing that other unit while the other tanks try and retake the town. And then here's where the rest of my guys have just got to get into the fight now. And move everybody along a road. Luckily the tanks, once they're on a road, they can move a hell of a long way. While they're not on a road though, movement across the snow is a little bit more difficult. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have any material at the moment. Material is used to repair cities and restock tanks. So Potomac and Gumrak and all of the others are still basically on fire and ruined because I don't have enough material to sort of repair them. That's why I've got all of the cities that I've captured and all of my original ones producing material to try and restock these tanks, because the tanks seem to be doing the best work for me at the moment. Especially when they're able to surround people. Thing is, in this big battle here, they've got a couple of units of Panzer IVs, and like I said, they're really difficult to deal with just because of how strong they are. Well, I do have plenty of artillery, Plenty of field guns, some more KV-2s. These guys still pressing on inexorably towards that little cut-off town by itself. And this fight in the south here, you can see more guys have started coming, more enemy units have started coming from that left-hand side. And from this town here, which means that they've obviously gotten a fresh batch of reinforcements themselves. So this is going to turn into one big, massive fight, which I didn't really account for. I just kind of expected to overrun that town in sort of 3 or 4 turns and be done with it. But now that these forces have appeared on the left-hand side of the central flank, I'm starting to get a little bit worried, because that's 3 units of tanks and 2 units of infantry that I hadn't accounted for. As you see, the tanks start pushing straight on for my artillery batteries. So I'm going to have to really divert some tanks and try and just blockade them, which is what you can see me doing here. So I've got to pull forces from this little fight around this town here. But the reason I can do that is because I've just had a fresh batch of reinforcements from the right-hand side. And with those reinforcements, they're going to let me plug the holes around that little town that I've had to make by diverting forces to the centre, where all of the extra enemy units are coming from. And what I'm planning on doing is these guys here, once they've overrun the towns of the north, half of them are going to divert to the right-hand side and try and get to the centre to help plug up some of those gaps as well. And then I'm going to leave this massive blob of tanks here to finish overrunning the heartland of the German territory. Hopefully it'll be enough units. I think it will be, and the rest of the guys are going to divert to the right-hand side. Everybody right of that little lake there is, yeah, that one. Everybody here, once they've taken these 2 towns, they're going to divert to the right-hand side and try and pincer maneuver on the enemy forces. As you can see, they're actually quite close. So once they've won their fight, they're going to do a pincer maneuver and come in behind the enemy. And hopefully we can just crush them from both sides. That's the plan. Hopefully more German reinforcements don't turn up and ruin that idea. But it looks like we're getting towards the end of the video. And I hope you've enjoyed the show. Like I said, I haven't really seen anybody doing this kind of thing before, using this concept, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, let me know. Obviously a comment's the best way of doing that, or just hit the like button if you don't like leaving comments, and I can use that as a good gauge of whether you guys are interested in this kind of content. Like I said, obviously it's gonna mature and get better as we go along, and it's gonna change into more, it's gonna morph into more games and different things that we can do. But at the moment it's the Battle of Stalingrad. There will be another episode of this where we get the last 15 turns done. That should probably be condensed down into about 20 minutes. Maybe 30, depending how many forces we've got and how much we've got to come up against in the end. Because you can see a single turn takes quite a long time at the moment, considering how many forces we have on the battlefield. So, that looks like pretty much the end of the turn. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Like I said, leave a like and a comment if you enjoy it. And I'll see you in the next episode.